Hello, book lovers! Welcome to Read with Fatim, where every story comes to life in just a few minutes.
Today, we're going to talk about a book that is more like a world waiting to be explored. It's a huge, thoughtful, and incredibly special graphic novel called Watchmen, written by the brilliant Alan Moore and painted with such detail by Dave Gibbons. Now, you might be thinking, a story with masked heroes? Yes, but this one is different. It's like a grown-up fairy tale that asks deep, wonderful questions about what it really means to be a hero, or even just what it means to be human. Watchmen is famous because it completely changed how people thought about comic book stories. Before this book, heroes were often simple, good always won, and the bad guys were always clearly evil. But Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons gave us a world that looks a lot like our own, with all its messiness and shades of grey. Did you know that when it was first published in the 1980s, it won an award usually given to science fiction books, the Hugo Award? That's because it's not just an action story, it's a profound look at destiny, morality, and the heavy weight of courage. The story takes place in an alternate 1985, a time when the world feels cold and frightened, standing on the edge of a nuclear war between two great powers. Imagine a version of history where costumed vigilantes appeared in the 1940s and 60s, and their presence actually changed everything. They helped America win the Vietnam War, and one of them, a man who became like a god, even became the country's greatest weapon. But by the time our story begins, most of these heroes are retired, their masks hung up because people started to fear them and didn't want them anymore. What makes this book so special and why it is loved all over the world is how it lets us peek behind the masks. It shows us that heroes are people too, full of regrets, complicated emotions, and sometimes very difficult choices. It asks us to look at the people we admire and wonder, who watches the Watchmen? If the people we trust to protect us start making mistakes, who protects us from them? It's a story about finding light in the darkest places and realizing that the power to change the world doesn't always come from superpowers. Sometimes it comes from a simple, unyielding belief in what is right. So, take my hand, let's step out of our world and into the stormy, rainy streets of an alternate New York where a single, shocking event is about to pull a group of retired, flawed heroes back into the dangerous shadows they left behind. Open your imagination, dear friends, because the clock is ticking. Main summary structure. Watchmen, Part 1. The world of 1985 is a place of deep, anxious shadows. The air itself feels heavy, thick with the unsaid fear of war, and everywhere you look, there's a feeling of nostalgia for a simpler, brighter past that never really existed. Our journey begins high above the city, in a grand apartment, with a scream and a terrible final thud. Edward Blake, known to the world as the comedian, a masked government operative full of hard, cynical laughter, is thrown from his window, crashing onto the pavement below. The first sound we hear is the shattering of glass, and the last thing we see of him is a blood-splattered, smiley face pin lying on the ground, a single drop of red staining the bright yellow. A tiny, powerful image that will become a symbol for the whole story. The murder of Blake is the spark that lights the dark fuse of this tale. Enter Rorschach. He is the last true vigilante, a man whose black and white mask constantly shifts its patterns like spilled ink, never settling, always moving, a perfect mirror for his unyielding view of the world. Good is good, and evil must be punished, with no compromise, no exceptions. Rorschach visits the crime scene, his coat wrapped tight against the cold, his voice a low, gravelly whisper in the city's din. He doesn't believe this was a simple robbery. He believes someone is hunting the former heroes, someone who knows their secrets, and is starting with the most dangerous of them all. Rorschach begins his lonely rounds, determined to warn the others, his old teammates from a retired group called the Crime Busters. He first visits Dan Dryberg, once the sleek, inventive night owl. Dan now lives a quiet, unexciting life, surrounded by his dusty gadgets, a large, beautiful owl-shaped airship called Archie in his backyard, and the heavy loneliness of retirement. Dan is comfortable, soft, and reluctant to believe in a conspiracy, but Rorschach's intense conviction plants a seed of unease. He sees the comedian's death as a tragedy, but Rorschach sees it as a clue. The world doesn't make sense to Rorschach unless there is order to the violence, a purpose to the cruelty. A hero who only sees absolute good and absolute evil finds the real world terrifyingly messy, so he needs to find a monster to fight. Next, Rorschach goes to see Adrian Veidt, the man formerly known as Ozymandias, hailed as the smartest man in the world. Veidt retired early, revealing his identity and using his genius to build a colossal business empire based on the promise of a better, cleaner future. His office is a monument to perfection, a contrast to the gritty streets Rorschach walks. Veidt dismisses the idea of a mask killer as paranoid fantasy, but there is a strange stillness in his blue, calculating eyes. Adrian is the ultimate planner, a man who believes he can save the world not through fighting crime, but through the sheer force of his brilliant mind and absolute control. Finally, there is Laurie Juspekik, the second Silk Spectre. Laurie is a complicated, beautiful young woman, pulled into the hero life by her demanding, glamorous mother, the original Silk Spectre. Laurie is now living a strange, lonely life with Dr. Manhattan, the only person in the world with true godlike superpowers. John Osterman, a nuclear physicist, was vaporized in an accident years ago, only to rebuild himself as a tall, blue, glowing being who can manipulate matter and see all of time at once, past, present, and future, simultaneously. But this omnipotence has made him detached, a beautiful, sad-eyed god who no longer truly understands or cares about the small, intense drama of human lives. Laurie feels small and lost next to him, like a fading photograph in his endless glowing timeline. When Rorschach warns her, she is more worried about Dr. Manhattan's growing distance than any mysterious assassin. The mood of the city is growing darker. On the street corners, a news vendor reads an article about Dr. Manhattan, with a sensational headline suggesting that his presence has given people he knew cancer. In a live television interview, a journalist confronts Dr. Manhattan with the accusations and the godlike being, overwhelmed and annoyed by the petty, fearful. Accusations of the species he no longer understands simply vanishes from Earth, teleporting himself to Mars. In the vacuum of his absence, the fragile peace between the world powers shatters like glass. With America's ultimate weapon gone, the doomsday clock on the news edges terrifyingly close to midnight. The old heroes must now decide if the dangers they swore off are too great to ignore, or if the darkest conspiracy they fear is only just beginning to unfold. They are lost, separate, and the world is holding its breath, waiting for the one person who can save them all. A person who is now floating alone on the red sands of a distant planet, looking down at the tiny blue marble and wondering why he ever bothered to stay. Watchmen, Part 2. The world spirals into a state of panic after Dr. Manhattan's voluntary exile to Mars. Without the blue giant to act as a deterrent, the threat of nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union intensifies dramatically. The headlines scream, the streets fill with fearful crowds, and the constant sound of a ticking clock seems to echo in everyone's mind. Meanwhile, Rorschach continues his grim, lonely hunt. His journal, which acts like a constant private confession, reveals his own tragic and uncompromising nature. He is a man who saw the absolute worst of humanity as a child and decided that the only honest response was brutal, absolute justice. He digs into the darkest corners of the city, looking for connections, a pattern in the chaos. Because for a man like Rorschach, chaos is an unbearable thought. He has to believe there's a design, a killer. The investigation leads Rorschach to an old former villain named Moloch. Moloch is sickly, retired, and terrified. When Rorschach corners him, the old man speaks of a mysterious meeting with Edward Blake just before his death, about a big secret that Blake had uncovered, a horrifying truth that had finally broken the comedian's nihilistic laughter. Blake, in his last days, had seemed genuinely distraught, speaking of a plan to save the world, a monstrous way to make everything right. Rorschach senses he is closing in, that the mask killer is real and that their plans are much bigger than just revenge. He leaves Moloch's apartment, more certain than ever that his friends are in danger, but Rorschach's uncompromising nature soon traps him. He returns to Moloch's apartment only to find the old villain shot dead and the police waiting for him. The killer had framed him, planting evidence that makes Rorschach look like the murderer, a psychopath finally caught. Rorschach fights with a desperate ferocity, a beautiful, ugly dance of violence, but he is eventually captured, his mask ripped away, revealing the pale, gaunt face of Walter Kovac, a simple, unloved, and deeply broken man underneath the shifting ink. Locked in prison, Kovac is given to a prison psychiatrist, Dr. Malcolm Long. It's during these sessions that the true, harrowing story of Walter Kovac unfolds, chapter by chapter. We learn about his awful childhood, his abusive mother, and the terrible moment that broke him completely, the case of a kidnapped little girl whose abductor had killed her, then thrown her clothes into an outhouse to trick the police. Walter found the bloodied dress, and in that moment, he realized that the world wasn't worth saving, but it was worth punishing. He decided that the only proper mask to wear was his own face, a face that saw the dark truth and refused to ever compromise with it. He becomes Rorschach, the living embodiment of unbending morality. In the prison, he is a terrifying figure, a beacon of raw, furious honesty, and the criminals around him, men he put there, fear him more than the law itself. Meanwhile, back in the outside world, a romance begins to bloom between two of the retired heroes. Laurie Juspecic and Dan Dryberg, Night Owl and Silk Spectre, are drawn together by their mutual loneliness and the shared ache of their retired lives. They meet and talk about John on Mars, about the comedian's death, about the uniforms they left behind. Dan, with his warm but uncertain heart, is the opposite of the cold, omniscient Dr. Manhattan. One rainy night, after a failed attempt to connect with Manhattan, Laurie finds comfort in Dan's presence. They decide to finally stop waiting for the world to save itself and take action. They put on their costumes again. Not the heavy, intimidating gear of their former lives, but a sense of purpose. Together, they fly Dan's incredible airship, Archie, over the dark, sprawling city. Their first night out is one of thrilling, joyful action, a sudden bright burst of freedom after years of rust and waiting. They rescue people from a burning building. They feel the electric rush of doing good again, and in that moment, they are truly alive. That night, their friendship deepens into something passionate and real. They realize that they don't need to be gods or geniuses to matter. They just need to care and be there for each other, a tiny pocket of warmth and humanity in a world that is freezing over. They resolve to break Rorschach out of prison, believing in his cause, if not his methods. They know he is a key, a door to the truth that Adrian Veidt and the government are too clean or too distant to see. As the threat of war looms larger than ever, Night Owl and Silk Spectre are back, a flickering, defiant flame in the gathering darkness. Watchmen, Part 3. The Great Jailbreak happens under the cover of a prison riot, chaos that Dan and Laurie use to their advantage. Dan, as Night Owl, uses his brilliant inventions, like the sonic blast from Archie, to cause a distraction. Laurie, as Silk Spectre, moves with a fluid, determined grace she had forgotten she possessed. They find Rorschach in the thick of the riot, surrounded by the desperate criminals he had once locked up, who are now trying to kill him. Rorschach, the unbending absolutist, defeats them with brutal, unflinching efficiency, not for revenge, but because to compromise his own life would be to compromise his moral code. He escapes with Dan and Laurie, their fragile alliance of broken heroes reuniting to chase the Phantom conspiracy. The escape feels like a line drawn in the sand. They are now fully outside the law, on a desperate hunt for the truth that they all sense lies at the heart of the world's impending doom. As they fly away in Archie, the old hero team begins to piece together the terrifying puzzle that Rorschach has been tracking. They connect the comedian's last, desperate secret with a growing suspicion that their former colleague, the world's smartest man, Adrian Veidt, might be involved. Adrian, the celebrated genius who marketed his own perfect body and mind, who runs a business empire based on saving the world, suddenly looks like the most likely suspect. They realize that the person hunting the heroes is not a stranger, but one of their own, someone who knows them intimately and who has the resources and the intellect to orchestrate a global conspiracy. Rorschach reveals that a crucial piece of the puzzle is a strange, secluded research facility that Veidt has built in the most remote part of the world, Antarctica. Meanwhile, in the emptiness of space, on the red, silent landscape of Mars, Laurie finally confronts Dr. Manhattan. It is a moment of profound, quiet drama. Laurie, feeling utterly alone, tries to make him feel the pain of his abandonment and the despair of a world that is about to destroy itself. John, the godlike being, sees everything simultaneously, the past, the future, the electrons in the rocks, and finds all of it equally meaningless. He asks her why he should care about the tiny, fleeting dramas of humanity, which seem so insignificant against the backdrop of the universe. In a raw, emotional outburst, Laurie screams at him, revealing a secret she never knew she carried, a revelation about her own parentage. She realizes that her mother, the original Silk Spectre, had been in love with the comedian, Edward Blake, and that Blake was her real father. This deeply human, messy, complicated truth, a moment of accidental love and tragedy, connecting two people who seemed so different, suddenly snaps Dr. Manhattan out of his cosmic indifference. By seeing the intricate, beautiful, and utterly improbable chain of events that led to Laurie's existence, a flash of recognition returns to the blue god. He sees the infinite value in a single human life, the preciousness of one messy, improbable story. He realizes that the existence of something so beautifully complex as Laurie is a miracle. He turns his attention back to Earth, to the tiny, terrified planet, and together they teleport to Antarctica, towards Vight's hidden lair, to confront the mastermind. The stage is set for the final confrontation, the retired hero, the masked moralist, and the human woman, together with the blue god, all converging on the seemingly perfect man in the coldest place on Earth. They are racing against an unseen clock, propelled by a desperate hope that they can still stop the war. But a terrible, icy dread has begun to settle over them. Rorschach writes in his journal, "Behind the mask, I can feel a wetness. It is fear. They know that Adrian Veidt is not a simple villain, but a terrifying force, a perfect mind dedicated to a terrible goal, a utilitarian calculating the price of human peace. They are walking into the world's most beautiful and most deadly trap." Watchmen, Part 4. Night Owl, Silk Spectre, Rorschach, and Dr. Manhattan arrive at Adrian Veidt's Antarctic retreat, a magnificent, isolated palace of ice and perfection. The air is sterile, clean, and silent, a dramatic contrast to the chaotic, dirty world they left behind. They confront Adrian Veidt, the world's smartest man, formerly the magnificent Ozymandias. Adrian greets them calmly, almost sadly, a picture of perfect, unassailable confidence. Adrian, in a long, chilling monologue, reveals the terrifying brilliance of his plan. He confirms everything. He murdered the comedian because Blake had stumbled upon his secret. He exiled Dr. Manhattan with the fake cancer accusations, and he framed Rorschach. All of it, he explains, was necessary for the greater good. The world was heading for nuclear self-destruction, and no single hero could stop the hatred and fear that fueled the Cold War. Adrian decided the only way to save humanity from itself was to give it a common enemy so terrifying, so overwhelmingly powerful, that all nations would forget their differences and unite against it. Adrian unveils his ultimate design, a grotesque, horrifying creation, a genetically engineered alien monster designed to appear like a sudden, catastrophic, psychic attack. But as Adrian finishes his perfectly rehearsed explanation, Rorschach steps forward, his voice a low, burning rasp. "You haven't done it yet." Adrian Veidt simply smiles, a cool, untouchable expression, and replies with the most chilling line of the entire story. "Do it? Dan, I already did it, 35 minutes ago." At that very moment, Adrian's terrifying, impossible device is activated. The alien mind blast is unleashed upon New York City, killing millions of people in a single, silent, psychic shockwave. The heroes are horrified, helpless, and too late. They rush to a viewing screen and see the news reports. Global communications are in chaos, but the message is clear. Humanity has been attacked by an unimaginable external force. The world's leaders, paralyzed by shock and unified by sudden terror, immediately stop all military action against each other and join forces to combat the new imaginary threat. Adrian's insane, monstrous plan worked. Peace has been achieved, but at the cost of millions of innocent lives. The remaining heroes face an impossible choice. Revealing Vite's truth will certainly undo the newly established peace, plunging the world back into nuclear war, potentially killing billions. Keeping the secret, however, means condoning the murder of millions. Night Owl and Silk Spectre, two fundamentally good people, look at the television screens, see the instant, fragile peace, and with an agonizing, silent decision, agree to keep Adrian's secret. The end justifies the means, they reluctantly conclude. Only Rorschach refuses. His moral code is absolute. There is no compromise, no greater good that can excuse such a massive, deliberate lie. He rips off his mask, his face a grim mask of pure, unbending refusal, and says he will go back and tell the world. Dr. Manhattan, who has witnessed all of this, who has just rediscovered the infinite beauty and value of human existence, realizes that to let Rorschach go is to doom humanity to the very war Adrian Veidt sought to prevent. In the white, endless landscape of Antarctica, Dr. Manhattan confronts Rorschach. Rorschach stands firm, his final words a testament to his own integrity. No. Not even to prevent Armageddon. Never compromise. Dr. Manhattan, with a look of infinite sorrow, raises his hand. A flash of blue light erupts, and Rorschach is instantly, quietly gone. Vaporized into the frigid air, the pure moral flame extinguished to preserve the global illusion. Dr. Manhattan then speaks to Adrian Veidt, acknowledging the success of his plan, but warns him nothing ever ends. Then, disillusioned and weary, he departs Earth entirely, choosing to create life and meaning somewhere else in the vast, uncaring cosmos. Dan and Laurie leave together, shattered but clinging to their small, human hope. The fragile, beautiful lie of Adrian Veidt's peace holds, and the world is saved, though it will never know the cost. The final scene, a chilling cliffhanger, shows Rorschach's journal, the complete record of his investigation and his certainty about the conspiracy, arriving in the mailroom of a small, conservative newspaper. A young editor is bored, looking for any filler material to print. His hand reaches for the journal, and the new piece hangs in the balance. Closing reflection. And so, dear friends, we close the cover on this incredible, thoughtful book. Watchmen doesn't give us the easy, comforting answers we often look for in stories. Instead, it leaves us with one colossal, shining message. The price of peace is often the biggest question of all. This story teaches us that true heroism is not about wearing a cape or having powers. It's about the messy, daily, human struggle to be good. It asks us to look at the people we call heroes and ask, are they acting out of pure compassion or out of their own complicated desires and fears? It reminds us that sometimes the world's greatest threats aren't aliens or monsters, but the terrible choices made by people who are simply too smart or too convinced they know best. Watchmen made me feel a deep, quiet sadness for Rorschach, the man who was too honest for the world, and a gentle hope for Laurie and Dan, who chose to believe in a small, personal future, even when the world had been built on a terrible, magnificent lie. It shows us that even in a world on the brink of disaster, we still have the power to choose kindness, to choose love, and to choose the light of truth, even when it's the hardest path. The true lesson here is not about a superhero saving the world, but about you and me and everyone else choosing what we believe is right, no matter how much the world tries to convince us to compromise. So, I leave you with this thought, dear friends. What is the one truth you would never compromise? Hold on to that belief and let it be your compass. Thank you for reading with me today. Keep dreaming, keep questioning, and above all else, keep reading. Bye for now.